Hey, mates, welcome once again into the Little Dum Dum Club for another week. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Tommy Dassolo, and with me, as always, the other half of the program, Carl Chandler.
G'day, dickheads.
And joining us today, two very special guests. Please welcome back into the Little Dum Dum Club, John Safran and Dave O'Neill. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Shalom, salam. How are you?
Two very different backgrounds.
Wow.
John is zooming in from the library. We've got Dave O'Neill in the backyard of his house. It's taken him 20 minutes to get online, so we are just raring to go over here.
What, Dave? Why are you in the backyard? We're recording something. We want the best possible sound and audio, and you're out next to your fucking scarecrow. Why are you out there?
Scared. Because the house is full of 3 kids homeschooling. So they've all got to have one separate room. Then there's my wife. I've got the Zoom room. I could go in there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I like it being outside.
Why wouldn't you go in the room that's named after the thing you're doing right now?
I'm going to be telling an emotional story, and then suddenly, there'll be seagulls squawk.
Before you got here, there was 15 minutes of John stressing that his mic was working properly and that we were going to get the best quality audio from him. And then Dave comes in and he's like lying on the footpath. His camera is on a side angle.
On a pot plant. It's on a pot plant.
Also,
the guy starts up his mower. You listen to the guy start the mower next door. That'll be good. Right. Anyway,
we can see the wind blowing the trees, so it's, I'm sure it's going to be a beautiful audio quality coming up. What I love as well is, so Dave, you've come out. You took 15 minutes to figure out how to open Zoom and get in this chat. Then the phone was sideways. Now we can see the name of your phone on the Zoom meeting, and it's Dave O'Neill's iPhone R. So you haven't even figured out how to name your iPhone fucking properly.
No. Well, my wife's always comes up as Excelsior Force. I don't know why. So it's just one of those random things.
It's just one of those random
backyard. Okay, boomers.
I'm absolutely looking forward to it. For people that are listening to this episode at home, don't be weirded out when we seem like we're talking to Dave O'Neill and you hear no audio at all because he's forgotten to hit record. So sorry about that, everyone.
I have hit record, but sometimes my recorder stuffs up. So anyway, it'll be good. It'll be quality.
Right.
This is great.
Awesome. Hey, John Safran's here. We used to work together, me and John, years ago. Good friends. And what can I say?
Was he your tech support, and that's why you're in the fix you are in now?
He was my one person of color friend. So a different background.
Wow. And the color was white. Interesting. Right. Great.
Yeah, but one of the original citizens of the world, Carl, a Jewish person. Because there weren't many Jews in Ringwood. There weren't many. I don't know. But once I met John, I got right into it. I didn't
know I was your token Jewish friend. I thought you just liked me as a person.
Didn't realize you were checking a box. Yeah.
That was just Dave hearing all the stories about the Jewish controlling the media and trying to get more gigs. That's all that was. Sorry, John.
You guys worked together on community radio back in the day. Triple R, kind of a breeding ground for a lot of great radio talent. And Dave, it's good to see that you've taken that experience that you had on community radio and somehow managed to go backwards in terms of your broadcasting abilities.
Sitting outside in a windswept backyard. Yes. But, John has got something in common with you guys. He was a big teenage comedy fan. Isn't that right, John? Didn't you used to, stalk the D-Gen? Or was it, hey?
I used to stalk the D-Gen. Yeah. Me and my friends... We used to, when the D-Generation did outside broadcasts on their Eon FM show, before it became Triple M, we'd go and, I guess stalk them would be a way. We'd go to the Swagman restaurant when they did an outside broadcast.
They did.
When it burnt down. The tram. They did an outside broadcast on the tram, and we went to that. And then, years later, because we were wagging school. And we had our Jewish skull caps on. So years later, when I got into the media myself, they remembered me as the little, as the guy. So
again,
it was very emotional.
accounting you as their one Jewish friend again. Yeah, wow, awesome.
Can we go back to the Swagman, because they also did a broadcast that's a famous theatre restaurant in the outer suburbs of Melbourne in the 70s and 80s, and it burnt down. They did one when it burnt down. Did you go to the one when it was still standing, or when it burnt down?
No, still standing.
Right. Yeah.
So it was it was a theatre restaurant called the Swagman. So it was just What's the concept? Throwing their meal into the billabongs, or what? How does that work?
No, it had a floor show, didn't it, John? So I remember going there and seeing the Minogue sisters got up and sang a song, like in the 80s.
What?
And yep. And they had a jingle. It's a Swagman with the floor show that we're famous for, and a smorgasbord. They had a very famous jingle that went better than that, but it was a big deal going to the Swagman.
Not famous enough for you to remember it, but yeah, sure.
No. With a floor show that we're famous for. Yeah, they had dancing girls. They had like a comedian come out and do jokes. And then they just had this big smorgasbord, and it was huge. It was huge. Yeah.
What are the theatre restaurants doing in lockdown? Do you reckon they're still open for takeaway? But you just turn up to get your stuff in a Tupperware container, and you just get like 5 minutes from someone who's dressed as a witch. Like they just do like a bit of patter as they're handing over your noodles or whatever.
Yeah. Vampire says that sucks or something, because they're always really bad, the comedy.
Yeah, that'd be great if they insisted on the Uber Eats driver to dress as a hunchback when they dropped off the farmer or whatever.
Well, the irony is, you go to a theatre restaurant, there's very little theatre and very little restaurant in that place. I can tell you right now. It's incredible. But John, will you also
take no prisoners? Take no prisoners. Going the Swagman.
That's right, John. It's been a while since you've been on, and we've gotten more controversial in that time. We don't give a fuck who we offend.
Well, I've heard about this new thing about how you're only allowed to punch up. So now I'm seeing it in action.
Still, to be fair, that's how well this podcast has gone for the last 10 years. It's still punching up for us to abuse a restaurant that's gone out of business. So,
yeah, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Weren't you also Hey Hey? Did you go on Hey Hey, John? Did you go on Hey Hey?
Yeah, that's true. There were
was that you under the blackface? Oh, wow. Okay. That exclusive.
Jackson Jive. You were part of Jackson Jive.
My sister got on with my dad when when it was live. And we went down because they said, if your dog can do a trick, come down. So my dog could jump through and you'll like this detail, Dave O'Neill, a big M hula hoop. And so it was like a pink big M hula hoop. So do 10 minutes of big M shtick now. Anyway, so then they went down.
What flavors do we remember? What flavors? It was blueberry. There was anyway, keep going. There was some rare flavors.
He could only jump through an egg flip big M hoop for like a month or two before they took it away.
Before they took it away.
So I wasn't allowed on. I wasn't allowed on because I was under 16. So I just had to stand in the crowd, in the crowd, in the curtains or whatever, while my sister and dad got on whilst my dog Benji did a trick. And then years later, there was a great Aussie joke, and they announced that they were going to film it at a local or relatively local shopping centre. So I went down there and I told 2 jokes, and both of them got on the great Aussie joke.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
that's a
with Murray Fields. With Murray Fields? Yeah,
I think so. Murray Fields and Shane Bourne.
Shane Bourne.
But to be fair, the Great Aussie Joke was all about old jokes, wasn't it? It's not like you made up these 2 jokes. These were just 2 jokes you stole from somewhere else.
No. One was an old one. One was an original. One was a cover version.
Really?
So the cover version was something like this, if I remember correctly. It's like a man. What's a wanted poster joke? It's a sort of like. I can't even remember it. But it's about the whole thing of a wanted post. A wanted poster also means wanted. Can you think of that? Whatever that old joke is.
Like I think Dave still does that in his act, don't you, Dave?
Christmas
sure. Hang on a minute.
It's something like, he goes into. There's a bank saying wanted.
Yes.
Wanted for robbery or something like a wanted. I don't know why, and he goes up and applies for the job or something like that.
I can't on the poster.
We'll need a writer's room to kind of like punch up.
We've got the bones of it.
But then the second one was an original. I said,
wow.
This is my original that I made up all myself. I said, what happens when you combine Paul Hogan with a mushroom. What do you get when you cross Paul Hogan or whatever? Crocodile fungi.
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
There we go.
That holds up.
Like that holds up. That might be the one original joke that was like read out on that segment. They were all supposed to be old jokes.
Yeah.
So you at what age were you? 14 or 15 or something like that?
Then I might have been 15 or something, I reckon.
That's some balls on you to see a segment called The Great Australian Joke and go, I can write one of the great Australian jokes, and I'm only 15. I'll give.
And it was accidental. I didn't even think it through that way, but because it's a Paul Hogan thing, it is an Aussie joke.
It's technically, it's a very Aussie joke. Yeah, and it's evergreen too. The great thing about that joke is that the fucking PC police can't come and take it away from you. Nothing's ever going to change how funny it is.
That's amazing. Yeah, I didn't know that much. Wow.
I remember, Dave, speaking of stalking,
that should be on your IMDb page.
Speaking of stalking comedians at a young age, Dave, I just remembered this earlier. When I was in year 12, I remember being on Schoolies Week, and I remember I'd started comedy by that point. I was talking to you on the phone for some reason, and I was obsessed with the fact that you had a link. Yeah.
I was grooming you. Yeah. I was grooming you. Anyway, go on.
I was obsessed with the fact that you had a link to John Safran. I remember very vividly being on the phone with you because I was a huge John Safran fan and being like, oh, you know Safran, like what's he really like? And just remembering that now, like what a cringe memory. Just on Schoolies taking time out from drinking to talk about John Safran's music memory with Dave O'Neill.
Imagine that, Tommy. Imagine being on the phone talking to Dave O'Neill about John Safran, like we're doing right now.
Yeah, there are a few drunk 18-year-olds just out of camera too, so I should get back to it pretty soon when we're done.
Someone asked me for John's number. People are always obsessed by John. Someone asked for your number the other day, John, and I gave it to them. And I can't remember who it was. Just some random dude on the street.
Fleety. Was it Fleety?
But John, you are here. Of course, you've got the new book that is out this week. That is a big part of why we've got you on to kind of you're on the junket for that, so to speak. Now we were wanting to do this in person, but we're all locked down, so we're all in the house. We can't we can't do this in person. Obviously, your publisher was going to send us a copy of the book. The book has not turned up yet. In fact, I think it's actually a chance of turning up at my house midway through doing this. So if there's a knock at the door, I will be going and answering it and getting the book off the postie and just having a bit of a skim here for 45 minutes or so. If you guys don't mind.
And also, it's a bit shocking because we did, every time we have you on, it's because you've got a book out. So it means we have you on every 2 or 3 years or something like that. And you're the only author we ever have on this show. So it does seem like we only read one book every 2 or 3 years and it's yours. And this time we don't even read a book. So it might be another 3 or 4 years till we read another book.
No, I can come on again after you read the book.
Oh, great.
Well, John, remember your last book was about extremists, wasn't it? Where you went and hung out with different types of extremists, and me and you, I had to interview you at the Yarraville Cinema about your book. That's right.
Yeah.
And a woman asked a question: why aren't there any women in your book? Remember that? And,
that's fair enough.
You yeah, but as you were trying to point out, all the extremists are men. They're all idiots. They're all men.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
And then you said, I don't want to mansplain it to you, but all the remember that?
I think I possibly used the expression clansplaining.
And then you went into a detail. There was some back and forth to this woman, and I went, all right, next question. And then the next question, this woman goes, I want to know why John didn't answer that woman's question. Do you remember that? Oh God, it was funny.
First of all, there were women extremists in my book, but I guess it was like bent in favor of more male extremists or whatever. But it just seemed like a weird angle. Like I'm unwoke because I'm like showing more male clansmen than female clansmen.
I did think you should have had more people of color as white nationalists in your book.
Yeah.
I think that was pretty offensive.
Yeah, it's a strange response. This documentary about white supremacy does not pass the Bechdel test, I'm sorry to say. Well, you must be relieved that you can't do an IRL book launch for this. If that's the this new book, you're not going to have to.
What happens?
Deal with the
I'm doing an online because Melbourne Writers Festival was cancelled, thus my book launch there. But I'm doing now online through Readings Bookshop, September 8th, maybe.
Okay.
Oh,
well,
people can still book signing. Oh no, they delivered.
We did the book signing afterwards.
Yeah,
remember afterwards at Yarraville, they had a huge pile of your books for you to sign, and the woman goes to me, and there was a big line for people wanting their book signed, and the woman goes, "And Dave, we've got some of your books if anyone wants one." I'm like, "Nah, that won't be necessary." Remember that? That was really embarrassing. Like, no one wanted my book. I'm like, "Getting on my, don't even get them out. It's embarrassing." I got to go. I had to go anyway. I got my chalk top and went.
That's a great.
How are you going to do book signings?
We haven't mentioned the name of it. John Safran's book, Puff Piece, so it's out this week.
Oh yeah,
okay. Straight away.
Yeah.
And it is true that we didn't get a copy, like we said. Neither of us got the copy. We were promised a copy each. But I wasn't completely surprised that it didn't turn up because, to be fair, it was going through your publisher, who is also the same publisher that published our friend Belle Gibson's book. So I thought maybe there wasn't a lot of stuff in that company anyway.
The only time I ever got in trouble with my old editor, who because they're really nice people at Penguin, and they know I'm a bit of a clown and I'm poking bears and stuff like that. And with my last editor, I said something about Bella Gibson or whatever. Like I made some little joke, like in a text or in an email, like, "Oh, can you sort of?" It was just like a little throwaway thing. It was just like a reference, almost like, "Oh, I hope this has got sort of. I hope my book is as sort of smooth sailing as Bella Gibson." I was like, just something totally like, and it was the only time I saw like the teeth anger in my editor reply email, where it's like, "Yes, that is the first and last time you get to make a Bella Gibson joke."
Bill Gibson seems like the sort of thing where in another time it would have been part of an explosive John Safran investigation, where it's like you going undercover at the African church where she's been hanging out to try and like smoke her out or whatever.
So Bella Gibson, she did a health book or whatever. That
wellness.
It'll be annoying.
They said it wasn't that healthy.
If we can get this straight, it would be annoying people at home. It's Belle Gibson. Her name's pronounced Belle, unless that's a new non de plume she's using now about another book. But,
And they
she claimed she could. Go on.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, because I'm just trying to like make the listeners less annoyed, because there'd be people who like don't know who Belle Gibson is, and will be like bashing their head against, like, tell us who she is. So she was like accused of being into pseudoscience and saying she had cures for things. So a bit Pete Evansy, maybe.
She lied about.
She said she had cancer. She said she had cancer.
Oh, that's right. She had cancer.
She said she had it, but she didn't, and she got better through eating fruit and vegetables. Yeah. And then the police raided her share house in Northcote to try and get some money. Like they were carrying out like the TV and stuff. It's like, well, how much are you going to get for that for the creditors? Like $20. Oh gosh.
Yeah, John, we've been talking about her for a little bit. I bought so that she brought out a cookbook, which was like, these are all the recipes that I cooked that have helped me cure my cancer. And then it all, came out that she'd been making it all up. And I bought a copy of the cookbook on eBay. I've got it sitting in my house, and this is the grand, when we're back to doing the podcasts in the room, the first one we do is going to be catered by me, cooking from the Belle Gibson, the whole pantry wellness cookbook. So that's
it truly is the cancer vaccine. We're all going to be absolutely cancer proof.
My new book's kind of the opposite of that Puff Piece, because it tells you how to get cancer.
Right. So the two books don't have the same two books in the same bookshop, or they'll cancel each other out.
Right.
So it's about Philip Morris International, who are like the Marlboro people, and how they've got a brand new product out, which they're and it's not a vape. That's where it gets a bit tricky and confusing, because it's their entry into the world of vaping as sort of like oh, if you're into vaping, maybe do this instead. But it's not actually a vape. It's more a cigarette, like a hybrid between a vape and a cigarette. But that's not how they describe it. They describe it as this third thing. They've just made up a new word, and it's called a heat stick.
Nice.
So
I love it.
So one of the origin stories is that
also, by the way, John, imagine making up something that's lamer than a vape. That's insane.
So the European Union said we're going to ban all menthol cigarettes. And I think they'd want to ban all cigarettes, but it's kind of like you have to start somewhere. And they think menthol are the ones that younger people get into, and people who don't smoke at all, that's going to be the gateway one because menthol isn't as harsh on your throat or whatever. So the European Union just says, we are banning all menthol cigarettes across all of Europe. You're not allowed to produce them. You're not allowed to sell them. And Philip Morris goes, okay, cool. No, cool. We'll go along with that. And then they go, oh, by the way, we've got this new product. It's not a cigarette, it's a heat stick. And they've shown it. And what it is tobacco wrapped in paper with a filter at one end that you plant between your lips, inhaling nicotine and tobacco into your lungs. But it's not a cigarette. But it's not a cigarette, it's a heat stick. And and amazingly, it worked because like all these lawmakers in Europe had been like working on this legislation to ban menthol cigarettes, and they just did not put in their heads what happens if Philip Morris just puts out this cigarette and says it's not a cigarette and calls it a heat stick. So they're freaking geniuses. They're so clever. And
so how did you get onto this? How did you get onto the heat stick? Well, I've never heard of it.
Oh yeah. So talk about hiding in plain sight. So I was just reading in the newspaper one day, and a couple of years ago, and there was a full page ad bought by Philip Morris saying that they're going to close down as a cigarette company and they're going to relaunch as a health enterprise. I'm like, what the hell? And I thought, this is wild, right? And I thought maybe it's true. Like maybe this is like when apartheid ended in South Africa, because like cigarettes are this weird thing where they just seem like the most un-zeitgeist issue ever. It seems like so 1970s to be talking about cigarettes, a bit like, you know, compared with other like issues, like whatever.
I do find it a bit weird now when I see like a young girl like smoking on the street. I'm like, that's so weird. That's so like 20 years ago. It does seem
On the one hand, it is. So it's like people still care about so many things these days, as they should. So there's all these contemporary issues that it's good people care about. There's like Black Lives Matter, and there's trans rights, and there's all these things that are really of the moment issues. And then you've got this thing, cigarettes, that just seems like, I don't know, like a 1970s Women's Weekly yellowing in a box in a garage as an issue. But then on the other hand, it's the number one human health crisis in the world. Like 8 million people die each year of cigarette-related illnesses. And, you know, only 52 million people die of everything. So it's like this, it's both like the top health crisis and also
20%.
Like,
wow.
That just seems like the most un-zeitgeist issue at the same time. So that's part of the reason. Anyway, so Philip Morris on the back foot, it's like people are doing genuine things that are going to shut down their business. And they just come up with this word game and they win. And then I just didn't get it because it was like no one else was covering it. And I was like, how can this be? And so I kind of like chased that adventure, and I kind of, I started learning about their heat stick, and you put it into this device called an IQOS, IQOS, which they claim that it heats up, unlike a cigarette lighter. They claim that this device will heat up the heat stick to an incredible degree, but won't actually let it catch a light. So therefore, even though it's like generating this discharge that looks like smoke and is nicotine and tobacco in the form of a discharge, they say, technically speaking, it's not smoke. It's like an aerosol. So like,
it's an aerosol.
Wow.
And there's so many little, and
what?
And the book is just like me basically being duped all the time because they're so clever with their misdirection that you I start chasing down all these things. Like for instance, the first thing I found out, like I'm looking up aerosol in the dictionary because I don't know what any of these things are where I start this book. Like, I don't know what combustion is really and all this stuff. So I have to like go back to the source, like the dictionary. Oh, what's combustion? And like, what actually is aerosol? And then I'm reading in the dictionary aerosol and they're talking about examples of aerosols. And one of them is smoke. So I'm like, hang on. So the fact that this is aerosol doesn't necessarily mean it's not smoke. And then I start chasing down this whole, is it smoke or is it not smoke? Which I kind of won't get into too much here just because it's like, might be finicky or something like that. But then, so I'm chasing, they're saying it's not smoke, but some scientists say it's smoke. Is it smoke? Is it not smoke? Blah, 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 blah. So I go down that rabbit hole. And then it like occurs to me that because that the deadly thing in a cigarette, it's true that the deadly thing in a cigarette is smoke, but the more accurate version of that, the deadly thing in a cigarette is the tar in the smoke. Right. So therefore, just so this thing isn't smoke, it's aerosol for whatever. Let's say it's not smoke. If this aerosol still has tar in it, like who cares that it's not smoke? And
so what have they rebadged tar as then? Surely they've got a different name.
Oh, they do. Oh, it's amazing. They rebrand because the thing that kills you in a cigarette, the main thing is the tar. And so if you look at this IQOS and the heat stick online, there's no mention of tar. It doesn't have tar. And it's because they've reworded tar, nicotine-free dry particulate matter. And so there is tar, it's just got a new word. And they're so clever at it. I was reading like a scientific article in a journal where they're against Philip Morris, this journal. That's a perspective of it, of this thing. And the scientists there were still confused by this. And they kind of made a flub in their findings because Philip Morris had successfully tricked them that like nicotine-free dry particulate matter isn't tar. And also just look at how ingenious they are. And this is like one thing I didn't figure out. This is how clever they are. I didn't even figure this out until after the book was published. So this is like an afterword, like where I was like driving one day and going, oh my God, I got duped about something else, which is, so the deadly thing in a cigarette is tar. So their solution to that is in this not cigarette that's not generating smoke, but aerosol. They're saying that it's generating nicotine-free dry particulate matter, right? But even their rewording is audacious because it contains the phrase nicotine-free. So, but a cigarette, including this heat stick, they're like infamous for being the most infamous nicotine product on earth. and that they've isolated the bit of the cigarette that isn't the nicotine bit and then use the word nicotine-free, dry particulate matter. So now when they talk about this nicotine product, the most infamous in the world, they get to use the expression nicotine-free because they've isolated a bit of the cigarette that doesn't have nicotine. They're so clever. However much they're getting paid, they're not getting paid enough, those executives.
I've got a question. Are there any women in the book?
Oh, there are.
Well, John, because we hadn't gotten the book yet, I wanted to know a little bit more about it, and I went looking for. There's one review that's been published of the book in the Australian. It's a really good review. It's behind the paywall, so I paid for a subscription so that I could look at the review to kind of try and drag any little bits out of here.
You paid for a subscription to the Australian newspaper. Why didn't you just go out to the airport and get it for free?
I do famously live in Tullamarine, just a short 4.5 kilometers from the airport. But it is the guy's really positive about the book. But what I love about the review is that he's really into it, but at the start of the review, he goes, I have a feeling that a lot of people aren't going to read the book, so I'm just going to list all the important details about what Philip Morris has done, just so that people can be educated about it, because I assume that people aren't going to read this book. It's like very weirdly, like positively, it's positive, but it's kind of a weird mission statement of the review.
No, he was the guy. He said John Safran is like those chaser guys who just does stunts, didn't he, John? That's what he said, didn't he?
Okay, I'll show you what they said. It was a really good. It was a good thing. This is the opening sentence of the review in The Australian. Puff Piece is an important book. I was surprised because I did not think John Safran wrote important books. I thought he just did stunts like the Chaser Boys, but without any mates.
See, that's the thing. This is risky from this bloke because I know who wrote the review, and this is a guy not that far away from you, John, because he's a funny writer. He's put out books himself. He's this deadly thing where it's like he's a comedy writer. He's putting out funny books before, and now he's turned comedy reviewer. His name's Mark Dappin.
I thought he wrote serious books. He wrote serious books about...
you look back, I used to read his stuff. Like he wrote funny books maybe 10, 15 years ago. So he's like one of these, there's a few of these.
Did he do one about war? Did he do one about war or something? Or am I wrong?
I think he's got, well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. He's a bit like you, John, because he started off, a bit quirky and funny, and then he got a bit more serious, and now he's gone to the worst possible thing. He's gone reviewer.
Yes, but I took it in the way it was meant to be taken. He's definitely like, it's like a little roast. It's like, but great. In a fun way. Like I really liked it.
I think he'd seen you on the greatest Australian joke 30 odd years ago and thought, I'll take this guy down one day. This Crocodile Dundee joke is too good.
Yeah, I was just saying, I was like texting people, I just cannot believe it. It's like a glowing review plus a lol roasting of me.
Yeah,
it's like it's just just the best. I was doing that thing like because everyone loves a roast, or at least we used to before, and so I was a bit there doing that thing. When someone's getting roasted on one of those comedy specials, and the guy getting roasted goes.
That's crazy.
That's how I was reading. Sorry, I couldn't.
But I'm surprised you got a glowing review from The Australian. I would have thought they would have been pro-cancer in there in the Murdoch press. They would have been. They're fucking evil.
This shows they're impartial because I don't really concentrate on it that much, but I do mention in the book about Philip Morris taking out advertorials in The Australian. So The Australian is independent. You can diss them all you like. My book brings that up.
Well, I'm in now. I'm paying a subscription fee. I thought my plan was I'll subscribe. I'll pay the 1 month. I'll read this article and then I'll immediately unsubscribe. Went to manage
you have to unsubscribe.
You have to call up. You have to call them up.
I know. It's like leaving the Scientologist.
I'm never doing that.
Unbelievable.
I'm never getting on the phone. I'm trapped now.
No, I've done that myself. It's amazing. You can't. You have to ring them up, and then they do get a bit Scientology on you. Like, why are you leaving?
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that. Like there's not going to be like a casual person at the other end. They're still going to try to keep you in. Right? They're still going to L. Ron Hubbard you.
I thought it was weird. I thought it was weird when I subscribed that I had to confess to every embarrassing thing I've ever done. So yeah, I think I'm trapped.
Number one was subscribe to The Australian. To be fair, so
I do a podcast.
You're in for the long haul, Dassler. You're going to be giving the Murdoch press so much money. You're going to buy Jerry Hall a new outfit, a new wardrobe.
I'd really forgotten.
It's like
I'd forgotten I'd subscribed and hadn't unsubscribed, and also I used some other email address, not my main one, right? And then I go to this other email address I never go to, and I go, oh, there's something, a receipt or whatever, and it was for my subscription to The Australian, and I hadn't turned it off for like years, and it was like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah,
I just had to pretend like I had to block it out of my mind. Like, what am I going to do? So
I had the same experience with Fitness First, because when you join a gym,
I don't believe it. I don't believe it, Dave. Are you telling me you got a gym membership but didn't follow through on it? I definitely don't believe it.
You know what? That's such a tricky thing. I do a to-do list every day. The other day, I got 3 things done, and it was unsubscribing to 3 streaming services. And I was like, it took me fucking all day.
Yeah. The Australian one's good because it's like I'm on the $4 a month thing, and the way they bill you is we'll bill you $4, and then the next time we bill you, we're billing you $40. So they're not even. It's not even like month by month. It's like we'll bill you for 1 month, and then we're billing you for the rest of the year. So the clock is ticking.
I think they screw themselves a bit because you know how another way you can. This is how you can do it without ringing them up. Mm-hmm. If you've paid through PayPal, what you do, all you have to do is open up your PayPal account page on your desktop, and then you can just through that you can.
Oh, really?
Stop.
Right.
Yeah, stop letting it. stop letting it like take the next amount out, and it just can't do it. But that kind of like the credit, and of course the other way would be to cancel your credit card. But the PayPal's a good
That's so extreme.
But the PayPal's a good in between one. The PayPal's a way to do it. But here's the problem: once you unsubscribe, because this has happened, I've tried to resubscribe to the Australian, and it won't let me because there's that kind of glitch of it wouldn't
You're already
let my
registered.
credit card go through it.
Right.
Yeah, or something like that. So they've really shot themselves in the foot. Well,
I've done something a little bit like that before where I couldn't figure out how to unsubscribe from something. I just went into the details of my credit card and just changed it by 1 digit so they couldn't take any more money.
Oh, yeah, that's good. That's a good one.
Now, but then I just get endless emails about, hey, I don't think your credit card works. I'm like, this is the best result I could come up with.
That was the greatest day when I lost my credit card and had to replace it. And the guide dogs, the Heart Foundation, they're all cut off because
I've had that happen. It's good. It's a hard reset. You just have to, it really forces you to reevaluate. You do a full deep cleanse of all the shit that you subscribe to that you don't need anymore. Maybe I just call the bank and tell them I got
why did you turn against the guide dog? Is it the guide dogs? Is there some conspiracy? Should my next book be John Safran versus guide dogs?
Yeah,
finally someone
blind people are faking it. They're just getting those dogs for pet.
The guide dogs just split down the middle. You know, there's 2 organizations that fight with each other. This could be your next book. There's there's Guide Dogs Australia and then Guide Dogs Victoria. Yeah, and they fight with each other.
Which one are the little plastic ones in the supermarkets? Which one are they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Are they just like the federal government and the state government? Is this the same sort of deal?
Yes, there's some kind of war going on in the guide dog world. But I mean, I only start those things because it's normally a person who recognizes me and goes, "Oh, you're that funny guy. Do you want to sign up for the guide dogs?" Then you feel bad. You go, "Oh, I suppose I have to now."
What's the schism? What's the schism in the organisation? Though, what could they be fighting about? Does half of them think that you should have to wear sunglasses to have the dog, and the other half think you don't? Or how does it work?
I don't actually know. But I remember I recorded a talking book for the guide dogs, and they were talking about it when I was in the meeting with them about again, work for charity I was doing, and they were talking about we're not them, they're different to us. There's some kind of I don't know what it is. I have to look it up. The big schism. Because John's next book, you know, but one of those things you don't mention. I mean, there's always things you can't mention with these people. I did a gig for Bunnings with Husey on Friday night on Zoom, and the woman goes, "Please don't mention the wood shortage." And I'm like, "What's the wood shortage? There's a shortage of wood. There's a shortage."
I'm angry about this wood shortage.
Open up a packet of wood. They're all gone.
And so she goes, "Yeah, we have to get wood from Lithuania, but don't mention the wood." So anyway, we come on. The first thing Husey goes is, "What about that wood shortage, guys?" don't mention the wood shortage.
And I'm meant to build more investment properties if I don't have any wood.
There's the wood shortage. I'm anti-wood.
That's so funny. The thought that if they hadn't have told you, you guys both had half an hour on wood shortage.
Yeah, wood shortage.
Yeah. Well, John, speaking of reviews of this book, I was asking a mutual friend of ours for things that could be good to bring up with you. And she mentioned that there's an Amazon review of your first book of Murder in Mississippi that you went investigating about. Do you mind telling us about that? Because I thought it was pretty funny.
So I've got to slightly code it, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Or I don't want like my world to explode or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, I'm so.
Well, we generally don't like the guest to say the N-word anyway. So yeah, I mean that's just normal for us. Yeah.
So my first book comes out. So I've never written a book before, and I've like spent a year in Mississippi, like doing this true crime book or whatever, right? And then on the day of release, there's just this slamming review on Amazon, like at like 9:05 a.m. or something like that.
Right.
And it's just like bagging the book in this like slightly like something's kind of up, if you know what I mean. Like for instance, it's making these bizarre accusations, like saying that, oh God, there's nothing in this book that you can't read about in the press or whatever, when this was not a famous case that I did. Right. And then so it's just all a bit strange, and I'm kind of annoyed, like in a way that I wouldn't be now, because there's just so much, but it's like the first review, it's like people are going to go to that site, you know what I mean, obviously, and they're going to see that, and they mightn't buy my book because of the review or whatever. And it's just like laying into me, and it's saying, oh, John Safran thinks he's like Truman Capote, but Truman Capote wasn't so self-involved, and all this stuff like that. And in my book, like I make a joke about Truman Capote, so it's not like meant to be taken literally. Like I think I'm like Truman Capote. Anyway, so I start clicking around wish list, like what else he's reviewed, and it's all this stuff, like he's reviewed a hunting knife. And then he's like reviewed like a shirt, and then his review's really angry. He's like when it arrived, it came from Pakistan. Had I known it was going to be Pakistan, I would not have bought this, because I don't want to support that sort of Islamist government or whatever like that. And then he also was complaining about the size, because he'd ordered an extra large.
Hang on, is this still the book, or is this the shirt?
No, this is the shirt.
All right, okay.
So the guy had ordered an extra large,
right,
or an extra large, but it still wasn't fitting. And his only explanation for that could be that it had been sized wrong.
Yeah.
like it can't have been.
I blame Islam.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, it can't have been because like he's too large.
He's fat.
Extra large.
Yeah, he used his knife to cut up a big full roast chicken and eat it in one sitting. Yeah.
And anyway, so then I go clicking through, and the shirt I notice isn't just any shirt. It's a T-shirt, and I'll change the state or the city, or I'll say Detroit. Anyway, it's like for this Detroit University football team. And so that's like a very specific thing or whatever, right? And then I'm kind of thinking, like it's floating in my head. I go, there's someone in my extended family who and they went to that university in Detroit.
No.
What?
And
no.
I got to say, I reckon they would be too large for an extra large. And
smoking gun.
But I
so
still
it's your
can't.
cousin or someone.
Shut up! No, yes! You idiot! I just said I was going to code it.
Okay, it was me. Whatever.
So then, but I still can't quite prove it. Like, like what can I prove? Like, I still can't quite prove it. But then, and also the name of this guy who's done this, his name is Hummus Man. He's the one who's like done this bad review.
He loves hummus.
So I can't prove anything. What can I prove? Because this person, his real life name isn't Hummus Man, so I can't prove anything, right? But I click further around, and then suddenly this page opens, and instead of saying Hummus Man, it's got real name, wish list. So it definitely is him, right? So I'm like,
wow.
What the hell? So then I ring up another relative who's related to this relative.
Why isn't this the book? Fucking hell. This is awesome.
And then I'm squeaking over the phone. I'm saying, why the hell is he like dissing my book online? Like people are going to go to Amazon and blah, 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 blah. And then this other relative puts down the phone, but I can still hear them talking to the offending relative.
To Hummus Man.
And I hear, Hummus Man.
Fantastic.
Shut up.
The Hummus Man 69.
Dave. And Dave, just shut up, because I know you know too much. You are banned from saying anything else. So anyway, so I hear this other relative say to Hummus Man going, oh, it's John on the phone. He's saying you're like dissing his book and blah, 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 blah. And I just hear this squeak back, sort of like in this thing. You go, John's just going to learn how to take criticism.
Oh, yes. You got Hummus Man.
And then,
wow.
And then I started watching, and then this relative, the non-offending relative of mine, said they try to get Hummus Man to sort of like change the review or take it down or whatever.
Take it off.
So then over the coming weeks, the review kept on being updated by him.
Great.
And
like it's a Kanye
being updated. and I promise you I'm not making this up. The next time I look at the review, he's changed it to Truman Capote. He was a great writer, blah, 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 blah. He knew not to put himself in the book all the time.
And didn't ring up his own reviewers.
Yeah. And then, but the problem with nonetheless, the problem with Truman Capote is he didn't know how to take criticism, and he often went, and he often went to reviewer rather than looking at the substance of the review.
Wow!
This led to him having a very bitter life that descended into alcohol and drug abuse.
Wow.
And that was his follow-up review.
Not unlike John Safran. Yeah.
Wow. Fuck. I love Hummus Man. Hummus Man's my new favorite. So we need the artistically minded listeners, if we can get some sketches of what you think Hummus Man might look like. If
we can, you know what? We're just lucky Hummus Man didn't get a gig at the Australian and it was Mark Dappen instead, because this could have been a
mild mannered Mark Dappen.
And this whole event caused such stress within the family.
I can imagine.
It became a vector for like other issues, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so everyone with their opinions, it was being filtered through this event, right? Then it's like a year later, and I'm in America because Murder in Mississippi, that was the book under consideration. It was being released in America under a new title, God Will Cut You Down. So I'm in America to do press or whatever. After all this stress for a year, day one of release of God Will Cut You Down in America.
New Amazon listing.
On Amazon.com.
No.
There he is.
He's back.
No.
9:01 a.m. Hummus Man returns.
No way. Did he just like update his review for American, like put you in the word humor?
I can't remember.
Was it a new review?
No, it was a new review. Now I'm kind of like got more of a sense of humor about it, obviously, but like at the time, because it was like my first book and it's like my business, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just I was like reacting to it like if I was like the local cafe and someone had said, "Oh, listen, there was cat piss in my food" or whatever. But,
it's like you don't do your first comedy festival show of your entire career and have your uncle in the front row going, "Boo!"
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because we talked about the book with you at the time when it came out, and the whole book is you being stressed about, writing a book and going like, what do I know about doing this? I'm kind of out of my depth. So for him to just like basically rip that out and put that as a negative, it's like he doesn't know what he's doing. It's like so hard.
But then I found out, then I started doing Googling and I found out that Hummus Man had been like, and I had no idea this was happening, that for years, like if there's like a YouTube clip, of me, like Hummus Man, like dissing me in the comments. And then I did I knew I couldn't prove this was Hummus Man, but I did a show at like the Athenaeum or something. I think it might have been for Murder and it could have been for Depends What You Mean by Extremists, maybe my next book. And there was like this review on Ticket Tech where you bought the tickets. I don't know, hardly anyone does this, but like when you go by either Ticketmaster or Ticket Tech, I don't know.
There are reviews there.
But you can actually review on like the Ticket Tech or Ticketmaster page, and no one does it or whatever, right? But then, so I looked at it, and there's like, after my first show, I think there was still a couple to go. There's like this like half a star, and it's like only like one person's reviewed the show, right?
Here we go.
And I can't prove it, but it's like, again, like highly suspicious because the whole thing didn't make any sense. Like, because I was there at the theater, and this definitely didn't happen. Where it's like, when I went to a show about extremists, I was expecting some serious political thought or whatever. But John seemed to treat it all as a joke and stuff like that. People were very disappointed that they'd come to this event and instead was just a guy clowning around about extremists, and half of the audience left. Half of the audience left, and we would have, had we not been blocked in our seats, and it would have been rude to walk by other people.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, man, that's definitely Hummus Man straight.
From you, the H-Man.
And also, P.S. It almost put me off my Middle Eastern dip that I was putting my bread in at the end.
Yes.
What a
No, that's his
terrible
sidekick. Come on, flatbread boy, to the chickpea mobile.
Come on, Tzatziki. Let's get out of here. Have you seen him, John? Have you actually seen him in the flesh since any of this, or at a family gathering? Have you seen Hummus Man at all?
No. David, you're not allowed to talk anymore about this. David knows too much about this. At
the very least, it feels like we've got one new listener this week with you being on the show, John. So that's good.
Yes.
To Hummus Man listening, give us a like and subscribe. Give us a review on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Please say any new listener is a good listener for us.
No, he'll come up with a new code word. It'll be Baba Ganoush from now on.
Yeah.
I'll be listening next week, and you've like brought him on for counterpoint.
Yeah. I'm really into him.
Yeah.
It's like me calling up Dave O'Neill on School List. You know John Safran. Now I'm talking to John Safran going, wow, you know the Hummus Man? Fuck, what's he like? Can we have his phone number? Oh, my God.
Yeah. Great.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, you guys, Dave, you guys have... So you've worked together for years and years, you and John.
Well, off and on, and John got my dad on. Which show was that where Kev featured John?
Versus God, where he was there as a Freemason.
It was so funny because because
I did a segment.
Yes,
I did a segment where the joke was, it was like it was this hyperbolic exposing the secrets of the Freemasons, and like, so all the editing and the ominous music and the thing, like I was going to get in deep and expose the Freemasons for their like satanic roots and their rituals and their things. But the whole time I'm just like following Dave's dad around. He's a Freemason.
He took you to the lodge, and he opened up the boot of his cars, and there were ropes in there, and you're like, oh my God, there's ropes to tie up the goat. It was funny because Dad, you'd meet Dad at my parties, and when we'd go for dinner, Dad and Mum would be there sometimes for my birthday. And you'd always talk to Dad and say, can I interview you about the Freemasons? And Dad's like, nah, no way, I can't get it. It's all a secret organization. I can't do it. And then I rang Mum one day and I said, where's Dad? She's he's up filming with John Safran. So he came across very quickly to the idea of John, did you just come around to his house every day and just change your handshake every time until you got the right combination and then he had to do it?
I did. The best thing was that he felt the need to defend himself against my like bizarre accusations. Like we went to like Leo's Spaghetti Bar because I'd read in a Freemason magazine that there was like, because you get a card, like a discount card, a bit like a Triple R subscriber card if you're a free
Yes, you do.
And so you got like a 5% discount at Leo's Spaghetti Bar.
You just like punched a hole in a little spaghetti on a card.
Yeah. So you went to like just the regular. We went to the Leo's Spaghetti Bar. I took Kevin, Dave's dad there. And then when like the owner comes up and they shake the hand, I get like overexcited and I go, come over there. And I accuse him of doing a secret handshake. And Dave's dad has to defend himself. He goes, it was an ordinary handshake. And then like it comes up with the ominous music on the screen. Boom. 5% discount at Leo's Spaghetti Bar, showing how the Freemasons are all connected in this, helping each other out in this secret society.
So that used to be like Freemason used to be sort of our conspiracy sort of thing. You know, remember 10, 20 years ago where we didn't have all these fucking insane people we've got right at the moment. It was all like a counterculture. Now it's like the front of culture at the moment, but that was like the nice conspiracy sort of thing. What is the story now that are the Freemasons even a thing anymore? They're certainly a much smaller thing, obviously.
No, they're older guys. Like that would amuse me when Gary Ablett Senior, the former Geelong legend, came out. And remember he filmed that thing in his car and he was driving around. talking about COVID, and he mentioned the Freemasons. He said the Freemasons were behind COVID. It's such an old reference. What are you going to say? The Lions Club next? Yeah, so retro.
Yeah.
They're all over. I did a gig.
You know why? You know why he did that? You know why Gary Ablett did that? He was shitty about not getting the 5% deal. So he thought he could be COVID on them.
Now, I did a gig for the Williamstown Freemasons the other night, and they're all mainly over 70. Did they say don't mention the lack of wood and everything else?
But you're so right. It's so weird how this stuff that was like the fringe of the fringe of the fringe of the counterculture, all these kind of conspiracies is now like it's the world.
They seem so light. The stakes were so much lower. It's like, oh, if this is just kind of like funny that these guys are out here doing this stuff, and now conspiracy theories are like they're a pedophile everywhere.
I mean, that's part of the reason. I mean, there were several reasons. Part of the reasons I wrote Puff Piece and investigated Philip Morris is because all my shtick and my personal brand is now everyone's doing it to mainstream. Like the thing about hanging out with Klansmen or whatever like that. Like, remember when I used to do that? It's like, oh my God, John's found this Klansman. I can't believe it. And people like running around in circles on raspberry cordial, on red cordial. Like, it's so insane. Why the fuck am I in a forest with a Klansman? It's like, but now it's like, it's everyone's shtick. Everyone's shtick is like walking around, hanging out with extremists. And, you know, everyone's got a camera. Everyone's shooting a
Finally, everyone caught up to you, John Safran.
It's like mainstream. And the same with the conspiracy stuff. It's like, remember when it used to be funny? When it used to be funny to
right?
But that's part of the reason why I was like, oh my God, I've got to duck and weave and kind of come up with a fresh thing just to be sort of you know, I'm not.
It's really so true.
400.
My brother works at a school.
Go on.
In the outer suburbs, and it's like instead of people talking about footy now, these blokes turn up in the car park to pick up their kids, and they're all talking conspiracy theories, like tradies. They're just talking instead of how good were the Bulldogs on the weekend. It's like, hey, have you heard about COVID's controlling the world and it was all planned and all this, and they all seriously talk about it. He said it's incredible. Like,
what about when Alex Jones went mainstream? It's just. Baffling. It's sort of like hard to rewind your mind back before this all became mainstream. And it's like, imagine like 6 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever, thinking Alex Jones, the conspiracy, was going to be like this major cultural figure that like people have heard of, and he's kicked off Twitter and all that stuff. It's like, it's just the strangest thing.
So now that we are
Donald Trump, I guess it's strange. Even Donald Trump, because he kind of like absorbs a bit of that, even if he's not.
He does.
The conspiracy theorist himself. It's like it's all too weird.
So now that we are where we are, where does that leave the Freemasons? So do we? Are they like the Boy Scouts now? Do we know everything about it?
They're kind of self-destruct.
I think they are. I think they are. I think they're like Boy Scouts for old guys. I think they are. Right.
But they're sort of screwing up a bit because their whole thing is like, hey man, we're not the Freemasons you think we are. We're really open doors and like, you know, we're transparent. And it's like,
gone the wrong direction.
What's your point anymore? Your only shtick, your angle was that you're secret. As soon as you're not secret, like, who cares? Yeah.
They need to get secret.
It's true.
They've gone the wrong way.
And the costumes need to be weirder. You know what I mean? There were no. When I did the gig, they were just wearing suits. And there were women in the room, which is I've never seen before at Freemasons.
Oh my!
At one of your shows.
Yeah. This is not a John Safran book. You can't research this anymore. This is their time. This is Freemasons' time. They should have been like, as soon as COVID came out, they should have been like, yeah, we got the vaccine first. We've actually got it. It's May 2020 and we've got the vaccine already.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, this would have made them.
Yeah. That could have really been an uptake for membership. You're right. Like people like that. I mean, they could have been like me with the Australian, getting people in, hook, line and sinker.
Yeah,
what else you can do? $4 a month
for a year.
$4 a month to join the Freemasons.
Well, the only reason my dad used to say that people joined in the 50s and the bit of the 60s was the only place you could get a drink after 6 p.m. in Australia.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
okay.
That's why blokes joined to get on the piss after 6.
Well, again, if they started that in Melbourne right now, and if you could get a drink there after 9 p.m., that's how to get new members in at the moment.
Freemasons are exempt from lockdown. All right. Fantastic. Well, we'd better wrap it up for another week on the Little Dum Dum Club. John Safran, Dave O'Neill, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. Sorry the book didn't come through. I'll make sure you get it.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. It's out now for people listening. It's come out the day before we're putting this up. So yeah, go check it out. Go. I'm
just writing the review. Baba Ganoush man's on there.
That's all right, John, you go and write a review of Everything Tastes Better Crumbed from Dave O'Neill's book from 2004.
And if you want to come to my online book launch, you can go to the reading site, readings.com.au.
Readings, great.
Oh yeah,
what's the date of that?
September 8th.
The date of that?
Yeah, September 8th, I think, 6:30 p.m.
Yeah, great.
Go
check that out. Cool. Dave O'Neill, you've got a bunch of podcasts that people can check out. You've got the Junkies with Kitty Flanagan. Yes. You've got Somehow Related. Yeah. Go check out all of that. The Dave O'Neill podcasting empire.
Somehow Related with Glenn Robbins. Yeah.
And don't mention the wood shortage. That's all I'm going to say. You guys, don't mention the wood shortage.
All right, guys.
I mentioned the wood shortage on my future interviews here, just to infuriate people.
Work it into the junket.
Listening on, it's caught fire. What the hell?
Drop a little
about Lithuanian wood shortage.
For any of our listeners that end up checking out the online book launch next week, I'm sure there'll be a few. See if you can wedge the wood shortage into the readings book launch.
Get that in, please. Let us. Yeah, that's sort of like to show people that we've sent you from Dum Dum Club. Don't mention the podcast. Just ask about the wood shortage. Okay?
Yeah. That's our Freemason secret handshake. That's how you know someone's a Dum Dum fan, because they're talking about the wood shortage. All right. Thanks very much for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. See you, mate.
See you, mate.
Bye-bye.
See you, boss.